All right, we are live with another episode of Wellness Unplugged. This is my live broadcast, real-time podcast. I'm coming up. I've got to come up with some clever ways of describing what we're doing here. I'm very excited today for the special guest that I have with me, Kevin Lowe. Now, it's interesting, Kevin, because I'm from the province of Alberta in Canada, and we have a hockey team here, the Edmonton Oilers. And they used to have a famous player, and I think he was a general manager for a while, and his name was Kevin Lowe. So when I first heard of you, my first thought was this former hockey player, actually. So
Yes, I have, because we all Google our name every now and then, and that's
yeah.
what just popped up. So yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. So Kevin, you're located where?
I am in Florida. Yep. So specifically East Central Florida in the Daytona Beach area.
Nice, beautiful, sunny, warm, swelteringly hot in the summer.
Yeah, as I like to call it, it's a really pretty one step closer to hell in terms of heat. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
And so just for a bit of background on Kevin here. So Kevin is the creator and the host of the Lowe Down with Kevin Lowe, which is a podcast and a blog. And it's actually letting you see the world through his unique point of view, because Kevin is completely blind. And it's important that we highlight the fact that you're completely blind, because as I'm learning, blindness has varying degrees, if I can put it that way. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
So
Yep.
some people who are blind, they can they see shapes or shadows, or what's sort of the difference here?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, so the actually the majority of people who say they are blind are actually they have some degree of vision. Generally it's some type of light perception. Maybe they see certain types of shadows, or they may get some type of light, sensitivity. Whereas me, I am, what they call completely blind, totally blind. As I like to say, I'm not messing around. I'm
Yeah,
totally,
yeah. I love the fact that you can have a sense of humor about this, and I imagine that humor has been an important catalyst for really coming to terms with your life as it is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with all of this blind talk being said, for any of you who are watching and are thinking, why is he not looking at me, or why does he keep looking away? Just remember, I'm actually staring into blank space and trying to focus. So specifically why I started a podcast and not like a YouTube channel. So
Yeah, and so I mean, and I really appreciate you being willing to come on and do this live broadcast today because of that. So because I mean I think it shows that you're open to this and you're willing to share your story, and this helps other people to kind of understand what it's like. And so you went all in and decided to go completely blind.
exactly.
Right. Now, my question is, do you see pictures, like, because you went blind at 17, and we're going to get into your story a little bit here, but do you see pictures in your head? Do you see colors? What do you visualize life in your head?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think it's a common question that a lot of people wonder, like, what is it that you see, when you're blind? And a big part of my world is I guess, visualization. When I'm sitting here at my desk in my little podcast studio, I don't feel as though I'm just sitting in a blank room. I mean, I'm here and my desk is in front of me, the laptop's in front of me, even though I can't see it. So yeah, very, very much visualize. Even though, like, obviously I can't see color, I still like to know, especially when we start talking about clothes, picking out clothes, what colors I'm wearing, because I still remember what color looks like. And
Yeah.
that's something that I actually recently discovered, is that a lot of people who become blind don't remember what color looks like. And so I've been very fortunate that I do.
So that, and it's so interesting because it's very hard for us who have sight to even imagine be like having an idea, because we just take it for granted that we have our sight, and we go like, I'm wearing a blue shirt, and
yeah.
now when I say that, I mean there's how many shades of blue that you might be imagining what I could be wearing right now.
Exactly. And I can tell you, my mom and sister, who are generally the ones who I go shopping with, they can tell you that I am the pickiest damn blind person you'll ever meet. Because if they tell me, oh, like, this is a nice shirt, it's blue, I'm like, well, what shade of blue? And no, I don't like that shade of blue. That's too light. I'd rather a darker blue.
Yeah. because you remember what those colors were like.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
So this is we're getting a kind of an idea of present day Kevin here and what life is like for you now. And but I want to dive a little bit into your story here. And again, I want to reiterate how much I appreciate your willingness to be open and to share.
Of course, absolutely.
Because in your story, you say that Kevin, you've shared how you've been able to overcome the unthinkable, which is like becoming blind at 17. And you've done this through being open about your story, going and talking to people. And you like people know, like, look, at the end of the day, you said you're just any other 30-something trying to find your place in the world, and you wanting to make a difference in as many people's lives as possible along the way, which is, man, that's just so awesome and so inspiring. So maybe the first thing I'd like to ask you is what tipped you off that something wasn't right? So you're a teenager and something isn't right, and you go, okay, I need to get this checked out medically.
Yeah. So I had been really looking back on it. I'd had these varying symptoms kind of from the time I was a young child. And that started with failing the eye test at kindergarten. And that led to me, Kevin, needs to start wearing glasses. So I started wearing glasses. So that was one thing, which, I mean, not uncommon. That's something that, a lot of kids go through.
Yes.
But then, as my childhood went on, I started very young. I had migraine headaches in elementary school, and they were classified as cluster migraines.
Okay.
Which were just super severe. I would literally just like bang my head on the back of the couch at, like 6 years old.
Right.
And so that was happening. Then, we fast forwarding, up until, at the time when it was all discovered, at 17 years old, I had not really grown. I was only 5'3".
Yeah.
I had still not gone through puberty. And so, we had all these different things, still headaches literally every day of my life. I had a migraine headache. And
Okay.
and all these different things, and I went to the doctor. Luckily, my parents, we were able, I went to my pediatrician, the best pediatrician where we lived, who I'd went to from the very beginning. And so, you trust your physicians. They are the doctors. And
Yeah.
and he always told us, it's nothing to worry about. He's just a thirsty kid, or the headaches are because of this, or whatever it was. And so, yeah, there were many different symptoms until finally my mom and my grandmother finally, really, quite frankly, had enough. And we switched me to go to a new doctor. And
Right.
that's when the ball got rolling.
Okay. So now this is I guess kind of an interesting speculation, just because I'm curious.
Okay.
Um, hindsight is 2020, which is, again, kind of a funny pun.
Yes.
And it's funny as we have this conversation. I've never been so aware of speaking metaphors around vision and seeing and eyes, because I'm speaking to someone who doesn't have sight.
Yeah. Well,
But
you know what? Well, I will put you at rest real quick in that. That is a common thing that most people, when they meet me the first time, they become very, very subconscious of. And I always tell them, listen, even though I'm blind, I still talk like I see. I still watch TV. I'm going to say, see you later. So please
Yeah.
don't ever feel uncomfortable about, saying anything like that. Just don't ask me to look at something on the screen and we'll be all right.
and I just want to highlight the fact that I love how just how open and understanding you are, and how kind of you don't get offended about this, and you're not bitter. And
No, not at all.
frankly, like, from my perspective, you look like the kind of guy that I'd just get a big old bear hug from, and
Yeah.
we'd have a good time together. So
Exactly.
hindsight being 2020, you go, this brain tumor is probably happening, and I'm going to guess that it was probably pressing in your pituitary gland, if your growth was being affected, and this was
Yep.
happening all through like development over say 17 years.
Yes.
Had the tumor maybe been removed earlier in life, might there have been the possibility that you could have saved your sight?
100%.
Okay.
Yep, 100%. So because yeah, that no doubt. Yep.
Okay. Now, do you ever reflect on that now and go, well, shoot, I wish I would have pursued this a little bit sooner.
You know, um, I haven't. My mom, because she's my mom,
Yeah.
has would let it eat her alive. And because of course there's the guilt of there were all these different things that why didn't we go to a different doctor, why didn't we pursue this, why didn't and I always remind her that of two things. First and foremost, we were the patient, we trusted our doctor.
Yeah.
You assume that your doctor knows, and if he doesn't know, that doctor would send you to somebody who does know. So that's first and foremost. And then, second of all, is the fact that I believe in all my heart, with my faith, that this was in my plan. This was in God's plan for my life to happen.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, I can find peace in that.
Yeah. And that, again, that's just a really, really incredible outlook. And it actually speaks to the power of having a faith in a higher power, and it gives you a sense of purpose and meaning. So,
Yes.
and man, my heart goes out to your mom too, because I can only imagine. I'm a new parent, and I'm just starting to get a sense of what parenthood is like. And
Yes.
so I'm getting an idea of what like parental love looks like and
Yep.
feels like. And so I can only imagine, because I see the bond that my son has with my wife, and it's the most beautiful thing to see and to witness.
Yes.
Like the mother-child relationship is so powerful and precious. So I can only imagine what she would have experienced. And so in all of your own like sort of pain and struggling and frustration through this, you're able to provide some comfort with her and say, you know what, like this is okay. This was meant to be.
Yeah, and my family will tell you that really through it all, when this happened, none of it was expected. Even once we found out that I had a brain tumor, and I went to have it removed, and thankfully it's not a type. Most people think of a brain tumor as being cancerous. Luckily, this was not cancerous. And I went to have it removed, and I was supposed to be back to school in like 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow.
None of this was supposed to happen. And my family will tell you that I have been the one that has held this family together,
Wow. Yeah.
because of just how I've handled it. And I don't, people can say, oh, well, it's, your personality or whatever. Yeah, it is, but it's God. God created me, and I believe it, that God made me the person who could handle it, and who would turn this bad situation into good, and give him all the glory for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll touch a little bit more on that as well. But one of the things that I'm kind of curious about, what went, I don't know, it's a funny metaphor too. What went through your head
Yes.
when you hear the words, you have a brain tumor?
Yeah, that was a total shock, because when we were sent, once we changed doctors, so I went to this new family doctor, and he immediately he took one look at my chart. He listened to us talk, a little bit about me, and he pulled my mom out into the hallway, and told her something's not right, and we've got to get him to a specialist immediately. And the appointment with the specialist was a endocrinologist. And that the endocrinologist is the one who first told us. He's like, yeah, I suspect that, you have a brain tumor. Well, at that point, we never heard of anybody having a brain tumor. And so talk about like total denial, even leaving the doctor's office, even all the way up to me having my MRI. Like, this is so stupid. Like, a brain tumor? This is crazy. And so my mom was the one who actually got the phone call um on her way home from work, or she was driving or something. And she got the call from the doctor, and he told her to pull over. And so you knew that
Yeah.
wasn't good.
Yeah.
And that's when he told her the MRI results showed that I had a brain tumor, a craniopharyngioma. It was large. It had completely encased my pituitary gland, was right in the crosshairs of my optic nerve, and was pressing against my carotid artery. And they at that moment they literally said that I had at most 6 months to live if it was not
Wow.
removed. And so that weekend we had planned to go. We had a boat, and we would take our boat up the intercoastal waterway, about an hour or so north to St. Augustine, Florida, and we would stay there at a marina.
Yeah.
And so that was the plans for that Friday evening. And so my mom decided not to tell me. She didn't want me to get upset, so we went ahead and went. And once we got up to the marina and got docked and everything, it was then that my mom, I remember we were down in our boat. It had like a cabin, that we could sleep on it. And it was there that my mom told me the news. And I honestly can't remember. I barely remember that part of it, but what I do remember is just getting so upset. And I remember getting off the boat as fast as I can. I remember just running down the dock all the way up to shore. And I climbed up, the big set of stairs that led up to where like the big marina house was and stuff. And I can remember standing there with my arms on the railing, looking out over the marina. Gorgeous marina there in St. Augustine. And I just remember I can picture myself just standing there, and just I guess just thoughts were just there were no thoughts,
Yeah.
And but that was the devastating part. But then it was the reassurance that everything was going to be okay, because it was, said, even though it's bad, we had the leading pediatric neurosurgeon, right an hour from my home. Everything was going to be fine, and so at that moment my personality kicked in. I was like, woohoo, I'm gonna be out of school for a month. Like, see you suckers. And you know and I named my tumor. I named my tumor Bob the tumor. And
Okay.
so me and my family, we had a huge like going away Bob party,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So I played it up, but
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that the initially finding out was, yeah, pretty devastating.
No kidding. Really, in a sense, because you were 17 years old, and it seems like you got the world by the tail. The world's your oyster. You've got this huge, this future ahead of you. Did you have future plans after graduation for a career, for example?
I did not. I did not. I hated school, to be quite honest. Um and so the thoughts of going to college were never really anything that made me feel all that, inspired. But I felt like, until I figured out what I was going to do with life, the only thing that I was kind of into at that time was I took like drafting and design in high school. And so I kind of thought about that, kind of thought about being like a chiropractor, but no career, ambitions at all. To be honest, my family, they're sitting here. If they're listening to this, they're going, "Oh, Kevin, you got to tell the truth." And the truth was that my sister is 5 years older,
Yeah.
and Tiffany was always the, you know gung ho, like honors classes, career minded sister. And so my goal was that I was just gonna skip over the career part and go straight into retirement. And so I had picked out down in the Florida Keys, I was gonna get me a little beachside bungalow, just fish all day, party all night, and just once a month, my sister would send down a check to help support her little brother. So that was kind of my plans.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah. I
And
don't
so
I don't think she was in on it, but,
yeah.
but I was definitely gonna try and see if I can make it work, so.
Yeah, I love that idea. So then you go in to have the operation, and probably the thing that isn't on your mind is this is the last time I'm going to see my family's faces.
Exactly.
So then you have the operation, you kind of waking up, and when did it sort of dawn on you like I can't see?
That's always the $1,000,000 question, and I
Yeah,
always because I'm a sucker to tell a good story, and so I wish I had $1,000,000 answer, but I don't,
yeah,
because when I came out of surgery, I don't remember any of my time in the hospital after I rolled through the doors of the operating room table. I don't remember anything else. Yeah, I was stayed in the hospital for gosh, I guess over 2 weeks. I was in the intensive care unit, and I don't remember any of that time. I don't even my memory even coming home is very kind of spotty and vague, as far as, when I really start remembering. But I can tell you this. I can tell you from the stories that my family has shared with me, is the fact that, they said I was never scared. They said
yeah.
that I never freaked out. They said that, of course I was upset and everything, but they said it was never like that moment of just, "Oh my gosh, I can't see," and start freaking out. They said, I never went through that."
Yeah, which is again really remarkable, and I think it maybe speaks to this idea that this is a path in life that you were intended to be on. Um,
Yes.
so then, you know, you realize you kind of come to, and you've been out of hospital for a little while, and you're blind, you can't see, you now have to learn how to like live life totally differently and interact with the world totally differently. And that's going to be an adjustment for not just you, but for your family as well. All of a sudden, we have a blind son or a blind sibling.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was, it was an adjustment, and I have to give it up to my family, because, at that moment for so long, I was the patient. I had so many medical issues going on, as a result of the surgery, of now all this stuff with now taking all these medications and being blind. And for myself, it was just kind of, I don't know, just things just kept falling into place. And so I started, we started, it seemed like all of a sudden you learned of all these new programs that you never knew existed before, like a program called Hospital Homebound. And that's where
Sure.
I had teachers who's came to my home, and I had one teacher who taught me my school subjects, another teacher taught me how to start reading Braille,
Yeah.
and then, another teacher who was teaching me how to start using a computer with talking software, and all these different things, and then another teacher who was teaching me mobility using a cane. And so,
Right.
it was just all these different things that just started happening. And like I said, this was right after the start of my junior year of high school. So actually, coming up this month, the 28th of this month is the 18th anniversary of my surgery.
Yeah.
And so I was right in the kind of start of that school year. And so So I ended up staying at home. I never went back to school the rest of that year. I did
Yeah.
it all at home with the teachers. But, for a kid who like I told you, wasn't into school, didn't have plans for college. At the same point though, for some reason my family will tell you that from the very beginning, I kept saying I want to graduate with my class. I
Right.
want to that was like a goal. And looking back on it now, I think how like ironic and strange that was. Like why was that so important to me?
Yeah.
And yet, you know, I fought through all the short-term memory loss that I suffered for like 6 months following surgery. All these different medical issues. And just adjusting, like I said, just adjusting to this new world. To the fact that I caught up with my schoolwork, I did what I had to, that I was able to start back to school for the start of my senior year. And so
Yeah.
I went back to school just for like one class a day. And then I did the rest at home with the teachers. But it gave me an opportunity to quote unquote be a part of my senior year.
Yes. Yeah.
And I ultimately graduated with my class. Um, which was huge for me. Um,
Yeah.
but it was the whole, adjusting to this new world. It just I compare it to the fact that we just as a family were going through the motions,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and
Because
just surviving. Really
yeah.
that's kind of how you start is just literally surviving.
Yeah, because each member of your family would be affected by it differently. But I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like you have like a really like a supportive and a loving family who cares about you. How many siblings do you have?
I just have one, just have my
Yeah.
sister. But then yeah, my family is literally everything for me. And that's what I've said. Like my parents, they divorced when I was really young. I guess like first or second grade, my parents divorced. But what's so awesome about my family is the fact that when it matters, you would never know that there was a division in families because
Okay.
at the hospital, the waiting room was filled with my entire family, meaning my dad's side, my mom's side, all joined together as one family.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I really believe that this happening to me really kind of brought these two, families separated by divorce, closer, back bonded, together, in I think a really great way.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Now, I wanted to ask you about, when you're blind,
Okay.
you now have to learn how to move again because all of a sudden one of the ways that we sort of sense our position in space is taken away. That depth perception is taken away. So all of a sudden, like walking, it's like you have to relearn walking in a totally different way.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that's where I got, I learned, to use a cane. And
Okay.
so it's, the typically, blind people, it's a white cane.
Yes.
It's anywhere from like the height, if you're standing upright, it comes anywhere to from like your chest up to mine comes up to about my mouth.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
height of the cane. And so truly, there at the beginning, is basically, your eyes quote unquote see only, what you're touching or what the tip of your cane touches.
Okay.
You
That's
know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's an interesting way of thinking about it. That your eye sees what the cane touches, and
exactly. Yeah.
because
And
when you
so
said learning to walk with a cane, it actually didn't first occur to me. Of course, that the blind person's cane, which is white and some usually has like a red stripe on it. I
yes,
was thinking like a cane to keep your balance. But were you able to walk and keep your balance?
I was.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I didn't have any issues with that. So no.
Okay.
So yeah, because yeah, and that's what this type of cane is. They call it, like a mobility cane versus like a support cane. And so yeah, so as I walk, it is outstretched in front of me,
Yes.
feeling, the ground in front of me. Yep.
Do you have a guide dog?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't. My family all wanted me to get a guide dog so bad.
Of
To
course.
this day, they still want me to, and I've I've never had any interest. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, because I just think, like being a guide dog is kind of the most noble calling for an animal. You think about what
Exactly.
they're doing, and they're well trained and so on. So I can imagine they would all want it because it'd be a very gentle natured, very intelligent dog, and would probably get spoiled horribly.
Exactly, exactly.
So then you wanted to go back to your high school again after your surgery here and recovery and
Okay.
so on. Did people treat you differently? I mean, I imagine they would, but like how was it different all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's I had a huge group of friends growing up. And not any like best friends, but a huge group of acquaintances. And so at high school, during in between classes, it was a huge group of us. And all of us would pile into each other's cars on lunch break, going off campus to lunch and stuff. So, you know, one would think that, I had all these friends who would be there for me. But at the same point, and I say this because and I'll preface this by saying that I recognize now that we were all just kids.
Yes, yeah.
And so I don't hold any hard feelings, to any of them. But the fact was, it was too different, it was too upsetting for them, to approach me.
Right.
And so, but all except for 4 friends.
Yeah.
I had 4 friends. It was, my friend Brandon, my friend Mindy, and then my friends, Michael and Jessica. The 4 of them, literally were there with me from the very beginning,
Okay.
and are still, friends of mine today. And so, they were amazing. But yeah, but, in general, going back to school, it was good, but it was also hard, at the same time. Just kind of like during that whole time, I would go a lot of times, mostly with my buddy Brandon. He would, pick me up, and I would go with him and maybe some other guys, to dinner or something. And as much as I enjoyed it, um, it was always so hard because I would always come home, and I would every time I'd come home and just lay in bed and cry,
Yeah.
because as much as I enjoyed it, it was kind of a reminder of what happened to me,
Right.
and
The
that
life,
I
kind of the
you
life
know
that you'd lost.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But I do, though, I give those 4 friends so much credit, for the fact that we were all just kids. They were living their own lives, yet, they were awesome enough to put aside the uncomfortableness, you know, and we're still my friend. And that's something that today, when I speak to classes, like I'll speak to elementary and middle school classes, and basically just showing off my blind skills, make
Yeah.
myself out
Yeah.
to be like some blind superhero, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also try and give them some life lessons also. And that's
Yeah.
one of the big ones, is I always tell them the story of these friends. And I say, because, all of us in life, especially kids, school can be tough,
Yeah.
especially for a kid who is different, who maybe has a disability or whatever. And the fact is, we're all just people just trying to make it in this life. And we all just want to fit in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and stuff. And so yeah, so I for those who were awesome with that, was phenomenal. And in the high school, it went good. I had, some very funny times. They set me up with an aide,
Okay.
to
Yeah.
go to class with me. That was a total joke. um
Why was that?
Obviously, like, we don't get like a ton of people volunteering to be an aide for the blind people, I guess, because
Yeah.
the person they set me up with, super nice and friendly, but she was in worse health than I was. She would fall asleep during class. And so I'd be sitting there, and my teachers would say, excuse me, because she's over there snoring, and all the kids are laughing. And meanwhile, me, like, I would just get so annoyed with it, I would just not wake her up. And so,
Leave her be. It's my
yeah,
life's easy.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So yeah, it was it definitely had its own challenges. Yes.
yeah. So then, well, I want to ask a couple difficult questions here.
Yeah, of course.
One, did you get bullied after losing your sight?
I did not. No,
You did not, and
no.
that is phenomenal. And I think probably it was very helpful that I mean, you already have a big personality. I can just see it. Like, you're fun to be around.
Yeah.
And then another really difficult question: did you ever contemplate suicide? Did that ever cross your mind, thinking that your life had been taken away from you?
Um, I would tell you that becoming blind was something that I would never wish on my worst enemy, because it has literally been at times absolute torture.
Yes.
And there have been so many nights over these past 18 years that I literally have just buried my face in my pillow, sobbing, crying, begging to God, and and just angry even at God for doing this to me. And but during those times, I would always pray, and I would beg God to give me the strength to do it. Let
Okay.
me be able to take my own life. And I'll tell you, I never even got any further than that, because every time I thought to my family, and I thought, there's no way that I could leave them.
Yeah.
And so that's what I always tell people, that I actually had come up with an equation, um, back then when all of that was happening. I came up with an equation for myself, and that was faith plus family equals a life worth living.
Yeah.
And I always tell everybody that my faith is how I did it, or how I didn't do it, and my faith in my family is why I didn't.
Yeah. Man.
Because those two things together made this life, even as difficult and absolutely horrible as it was, it still made it worth living.
And it's like, I just want to let that sink in for a minute. That's so powerful. And research shows that those who have faith in a higher power or a higher being and a higher purpose, um, generally speaking, will enjoy better mental health, a better quality of life, because it allows us to create a sense of purpose and meaning for a life that otherwise might seem meaningless. And so, you're able to say that, like, and here's the other thing. I think people who would be maybe Christian and serving God and things like that, they might think about this and think, well, why did God do this? And somehow, or maybe there's this misconception out there that if somebody does become a Christian or is a Christian, that they're expecting God to make their life easy.
Yep.
And what would you say to people who feel that way about Christianity, that somehow that serving God is supposed to make your life easy?
I'll tell you that the moment you become a Christian, you better watch out, because life's probably going to get a little bit more difficult. And
Yeah,
and here's what I have to say about that, is because it does seem like, from my perspective, that sometimes it seems like those who aren't Christians, or maybe even they're a Christian, but maybe they don't really walk in that faith so much. It seems like their life is great. It's
yeah,
easy. They don't face troubles. And here's how I personally have come to wrap my head around that, is the fact that, you know, God knows that they can't handle it. We can.
yeah,
And, so that's how, I've had to, kind of come to grasp with that, is I'm like, yeah, you may think they're all great and wonderful, but God knows they're weak, because they don't have him. But,
right,
on the other token too, though, is, God tells us, in this world we will have, problems,
yeah.
because if this life was so perfect, then, what would heaven be?
Yeah, and what's interesting to think about, even in that perspective. I think of two things. One, I've never met a remarkable person who had an easy life.
Yep.
So it's natural to want. It's a natural part, sort of maybe a primal part of being human, to want to have an easy life. I understand that.
Yes.
We're wired to try and avoid pain and discomfort. And
Yep.
here, in one sense, you could say you're a bit of a prisoner because a part of like living life has been taken away from you.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I feel like because I've been through a number of hard experiences in my life as well, and
Okay.
the way that I kind of make sense of it is I I couldn't handle them by myself. I couldn't.
Exactly.
And this is how I see it, that I had to be brought to the end of myself to actually genuinely be able to have faith in God.
Exactly. Exactly. It's true.
Because if I could just do it all myself, like, what's the point?
Yes.
And
Exactly.
so, and it's funny because I hardly ever talk about my faith publicly. Actually,
Yes.
and it's not that I'm ashamed of it, but it's just generally speaking, I'm like, I generally don't talk about it unless somebody really wants to know about it. But the truth is, I couldn't have got through some of the experiences I've been through in my own like abilities, basically, uh,
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
I was, what did I have left when I nearly died and went through trauma? What did I have left when I lost all of my life savings? Like I've lost everything in my past, and then not even knowing what to do after that. And so I think in one sense I can enter into this feeling of loss, like, oh my gosh, the future that I thought I was going to have was taken away from me. What's the point of all of this? But because of what you know and believe, you are able to turn this into something extremely meaningful. So,
Yes. Yeah.
is
Exactly.
there so then is there anything that you're, I don't know, afraid of? Um, or do you think going through this experience, and I mean, I think fearless is kind of a myth, but I mean, do you think going through this experience has really taken away a lot of fears that you might otherwise have been crippled with in life?
Um, I'll tell you, I'll be honest, in terms of fears, the only true like fears that I have are losing my family.
Yeah.
Because my family is so much to me.
Yep.
Um, that is truly, when want to talk about fears, that's truly the one and only true fear that I have.
Yeah.
Is I can't imagine, I can't let my mind even go there to imagine walking through this life without them.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same token, I have to look back on my past to help remind me of what God is capable of. And the
Right.
fact is, look what I've been through, look what he brought me through. And in my life, I will continue to face challenges, hard times, the unthinkable, and he will continue to bring me through it just like he has.
Yeah. So then I wanted to ask about, you mentioned the four friends that really stuck with you in high school.
Mhm.
Are you still friends with them to this day, or do you still have those
Yes,
friendships?
I do. Yes.
That's
Yes, I
incredible.
am. Yeah, yeah, and it's awesome because they all have kids and stuff now, and especially my one friend Mindy, she's moved away. She, her husband there, is in the service, and so they, have lived all over. But her kids are just, they're amazing, and so I get to, just be best friends with her and her kids, and it's awesome.
So you're like Uncle Kevin to them.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
So then, it sounds like, actually, despite you being the one with this disability, you end up being a support for a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I truly am. I feel like that is you know, when yeah, I say that, when God selected me to have this happen to me, and he knew that those first 17 years of my life were all in preparation for what was to come. And I believe that he made me the man that I am today because he knew that I could take this quote disability and turn it into this amazing ability to connect with people, on a deeper level. And I feel like, that's the case with strangers, that I interview for the first time ever on my podcast, or it's my family who's just, I'm just can be an awesome person to talk to,
Yeah.
and and I sometimes have thought like, would I be that same man if this hadn't happened to me? And
Yeah.
I don't know. And so and so when I think of it like that, I'm so grateful, truly grateful for the trauma that I have gone through, because it has made me into the person that I am.
And that's such an interesting thing to say because I've said something very similar, that I'm grateful for the hard experiences I've gone through, and I wouldn't ask for them again. Like, if I'm being totally
Yep.
honest,
Exactly.
I wouldn't ask for them again. But I am grateful because, one, because I got through it, um,
Yes.
but because it's shaped me into who I am now. And I would not be who I am now if I hadn't gone through those experiences, if I hadn't been brought to the end of myself, if I'd had an easy life. And so, who do you turn to for support then?
My support system is it's probably three people for support, and that's my grandmother, who I call Nana,
Yeah,
and then my mom, who's basically like my best friend, and then my sister.
yeah,
Those three are definitely my support. Those are the three who, I don't a lot of people don't realize, you know, the bad days, when I have those bad days, which thank goodness they don't come nearly as often as they used to. But those are the three people who truly see me on the worst of days. And
and they're right
because
there
they
with you.
they are my support. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now you were able to do something really pretty awesome. Not only like do you run a podcast, and you're very active because I think none of us who aren't visually impaired, like we don't realize how many cool things you can still do, and what technology has really facilitated. So
Yes.
you ran a business as like a travel agent.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Yep. I started a home-based travel agency back in January of 2013. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I've been, because that all kind of got started, because traveling is something that I love to do, all growing up. It was one of those blessings that God gave me, was getting to do and see so much in those first 17 years of life. And from snow skiing to going, snorkeling and surfing, and all these different things. And so for myself, traveling and stuff, that has always been a joy, then even after becoming blind, because, as I tell people, I see the world in a new way. Instead of seeing a destination based on what my eyes see, I see it based on, what the people are like, what the
yeah,
sounds are like, the feel in the air. It all paints this picture for me of what, a destination is. I don't need my eyesight to see how beautiful it is.
that's interesting. Yeah,
that's what kind of led me to get into travel, and so some different things. And I was at a point in my life then where I really didn't know what to do. And so it just, the pieces kind of fell into place. And so yeah, I started up my own agency, and have been doing that. Last year, with the pandemic, that took a devastating blow, to my travel
yeah,
agency.
no
But
kidding.
that blow that it took, it gave me the downtime to discover this new passion that I absolutely love, and that's podcasting.
Yeah, and really connecting with people and sharing your story, and not only that, again, because I really, I see you as quite a selfless individual here, and so you have this podcast and you share your story, but with not only that, you share other people's stories as well, because you don't necessarily want all of the spotlight to be on you, but just really
Yeah.
your life shows people there is life after disability, there is life after trauma, there is life after a future that you thought you might have had is taken away from you. And
Yep.
you said, and I'd like to just shine a light on this a little bit. You said you see, you can't see, you're completely blind, but you've learned to see in a different way. You see, and what do you mean by that?
Is kind of just what I was saying, and the fact that I feel like when we see, we get so wrapped up in sight. And the truth is, sight is only one of our senses.
Yes. Yeah.
And yet so many times, it's when you ask somebody about an experience they've had, they're gonna tell you what it looked like. Oh my gosh, you should have saw, oh, the palm trees, they were so beautiful. You know, well, if you ask them about, what, what about the sand? Like, how did it feel in between your toes?
Right.
Oh, well, I didn't pay attention to that, or I didn't take my shoes off, or, or what about the people, because that's what, like, traveling for me, the people are what, paint a picture of what a place is, and
Yeah.
so, and that's what I mean, is the fact that we have all these other senses, which I minused out on sight plus smell. I lost my smell when I from the same surgery that I lost my eyesight from. So
Okay.
I'm down to only 3 senses, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
but but so I have that, but then, also, is the fact that, together our senses, combined with our brain, we can develop new senses. Like, I developed, the skill of echolocation.
No kidding.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I actually had started kind of doing it without even knowing what it was, at the same time that I learned about this guy named Brian Bushway out in Los Angeles, California.
Yep.
And this was back in 2017. And so, long story short, I end up finding out that he, at the time, was working as an instructor with an organization teaching people all over the world how to use echolocation. And so I literally went out to California, to Los Angeles with my mom and sister for a week, and I trained one-on-one with this guy Brian. And so literally now, I can tell you that, when I was talking earlier about, not feeling like, kind of visualizing stuff in the room. Well, the echolocation takes that a step further, because now I have trained the visual cortex of my brain to see through sound, see through echo. And so truly now,
You're like a real life
as
daredevil.
exactly. That's exactly what the pastor at my church has always, when I did the training and went out there and stuff, and my church had raised money for me and all that, and that's what he was so excited to always call me, the resident daredevil is in the,
Yeah.
in the building. But yeah, and so that's what, is just, that truly changed my life. Because it then, even more so now, when I said earlier about only being able to see what, my hand touches or my cane touches, well, now I can see all the objects around me. It's obviously in a different way. It's not
Of
like
course.
seeing with your sight, but, literally you form these acoustic images. So I can, walk up, I like in a parking lot, I can
Yeah.
walk up and see, oh, there's a car right there. And I do a sharp little tongue click, a little click with my tongue against the roof of your mouth, and it emits this little snap, and you pick up on the echo, and it, forms this acoustic image, and it's incredible. Yeah,
So this is crazy, because I mean, I love this, but it shows us the power of the brain. Like, my
ex-
mind is actually going to overdrives and thinking like, oh my gosh, could I
yeah.
develop echolocation as well?
You did?
No, could I?
Oh, you could. Yes. Yes, that you literally, and that's what, I've actually read some studies and stuff where a person had trained himself to do it by, he would blindfold himself and do these different activities and stuff. And yes, you truly can train yourself. And but the science, what's kind of cool is, literally, if you did an MRI of a blind person who doesn't use echolocation, if you did an MRI of their brain, the visual cortex would be black, okay?
Okay,
Because
like
there's no
shrunken, or yeah.
activity. If you do an MRI of a blind person who uses echolocation, it's lit up like somebody who can see.
that that is so cool. So yeah, now I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to develop Daredevil
Yeah.
superpowers, because like, obviously we don't even like, I think because we have something like sight, we don't tap into these other areas of our brain, and so we would just think it's not possible, and yet we're only
Exactly.
beginning to discover what the brain can do and how powerful it can be. So
Exactly.
do you mind like giving an example of, so if you want to do echolocation, what kind of sound do you make?
So my mouth is super dry right now, but I'll
Like,
try. So it's like a sharp little, like a just a little click of the tongue, or I mean, you could even just do a snap of my finger.
okay.
Anything, but the tongue click in particular works perfect because I can control how loud it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so if I'm, up close and I'm trying to locate an object, say on my desktop and on my desk, and I'm not wanting to just reach out, I could do a very soft little click of the tongue. Versus if I'm outside, I'm gonna do a much louder click of my tongue, and the fact that it's right in between your ears. And so
Yeah.
it's centrally located for that echo to then bounce right back at you.
So
So
then I'm thinking you can communicate with whales too.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
yes,
something like that.
because I remember doing an experiment where I was the girl I was dating at the time. We each decided we are going to spend an hour blindfolded, like fully blindfolded. And
Okay,
it was kind of an experiment in trust, but
okay.
we wanted to see what is it actually like. And what I can tell you is, first of all, it's a really disconcerting feeling to like have your vision taken away. And my first impulse was wanting to remove the blindfold and be able to see again because there is so much trust that we needed to have. But
Yes.
as I started walking around, I noticed every other sense becoming much more attuned. So I would feel like the crunch of a branch under my foot in a way I hadn't felt it before. And I would hear it differently. And I would listen to sounds and sort of if someone else was around us, I could kind of gauge them coming closer. And they didn't know what we were doing, you know.
Of course.
But like the other senses became much more acutely developed, which is really interesting. And I imagine this has been your experience as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have you ever done a dining in the dark experience?
I have not, but now I
Have
want
have you
to.
have you heard of it?
No, no, but now I'm like now I want to because I'm gonna let you share about this, but I just want to say one of the things that I talk about I think that is really really important because I work to help people heal their relationship with food,
Okay,
and
yes.
part of it is actually being able to experience food more fully. So instead of feeling guilty and eating it as fast as possible because you want it, but you feel so guilty about eating it, it's about being present with it and experiencing everything it has to offer from like the taste, the smell, like each mouthful you're sensing into the texture and you're being much more present with a bite of food than you ever would before. And because of that, you naturally eat a little bit less and eat a bit slower, but you get more enjoyment out of eating.
Yeah.
And so I can
Well,
only imagine eating in the dark. Oh my gosh.
yeah, so we have done several dining in the dark events that have been charity events, fundraising events for some of the local organizations like Center for the Visually Impaired, who do stuff to help the people who are blind or visually impaired. And so that has been a lot of fun because I've gotten to attend those with my family.
Yeah.
And so they literally when they take you into the room, you enter, they call it like their I don't know, like their blackout room first. And so they take, table by table of people, because generally it's always like a really big event.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they take you into a room, they shut the door behind you. Once that door is fully shut, then they open the door into the dining room so that
Okay.
no light comes into the dining room.
Okay.
And so they then lead everybody, and they have everybody lead like in a Congo line.
Oh
And
man.
they have the waiters have always been here where I live at these events have been like volunteer deputy sheriffs who are wearing night vision goggles.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so and so those are the waiters. And so they lead everybody to the table. Well, I have gotten such a kick out of it because my family are like total just animals trying to eat their food, because the event, I mean, it's set up like the tables are set like super fancy, like you're going to like a fancy like banquet dinner. And
Yeah.
so you got the multiple pieces, multiple forks and spoons, and you got the wine glass and the water goblet, and all of this stuff. And so anyways, like I can remember one year my dad, he was sitting next to me, and they don't even tell you what you're eating. And so that's very
Yeah.
interesting because again, it kind of shows you how kind of terrible our senses are on their own, because so many people, eating the food, don't even would think it's one thing to then afterwards they tell you what you've eaten and realize it was something different.
Now
You
that
know, and
really, so
yes,
you don't
yes,
tell them what you're eating. You eat it, and they go like, "Well, I mean, it tasted good," but you don't tell. So you could, because like last night, I made chicken gizzard soup, for example,
okay, okay,
and because I'm trying to move into more nose to tail eating, where I learned to eat other parts of the animal besides muscle meat.
okay,
And
awesome.
if I didn't know like what I was eating, I would have
Okay,
thought I was eating beef, like little chunks of beef, because
yep,
that's how it comes out. I would
exactly,
not have thought I was eating chicken. But I,
exactly.
the first time I was eating them, I noticed I felt a little bit of a sense of repulsion, even though I was like, it actually tastes good. I enjoy the
Yes,
texture of it. It really is like beef. But there was still a sense of repulsion because I was like, this is a chicken gizzard. This is not, say, a chicken breast.
exactly.
But if I didn't know that that was what I was eating, I would have had no issue with it.
Of course, of course. And but it was just so funny, and that was something that my family has always said that they've always thought is so amazing about me is the fact that I've never had any issues eating after losing my sight as far as being messy, a messy eater or anything. And I've always said, I'm like, I don't understand, guys. Like, it's not difficult to put something into your mouth without seeing it. But take them to dining in the dark and you realize, like, now they're trying to, like, cut up their food, trying to stab a bite, a piece of steak and now put it in their mouth, and, oh my gosh, I get such joy out of doing those experiences with my family,
No
because
kidding.
you have some who at the end are, like, super impressed with themselves and are like, "Whoa, yeah, man, I did so good, I didn't make a mess," and then you have the other ones who, like my dad, who he finally I remember that one night, he's like, "I'm just done." He's like, he's like, "I'm just giving up." He's like, "I'm so frustrated right now."
Yeah, I can only imagine, but it's actually very interesting thinking about that because they would actually get a taste of kind of your experience, for example, where
Ex
one day you have sight, the next day you don't.
exactly,
And you go,
exactly, and
versus gradual deterioration over time.
yep, exactly. So, yeah, so those are definitely cool. Definitely if you ever hear of that happening in your area or anything, definitely recommend, giving that a try.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you have superpowers with echolocation, kind of like Daredevil.
Yes, yes.
You can eat perfectly well in the dark. Um, I think your other superpower is just your very genuine positivity. Like we've never met in person, but I know the first time we meet, if we get a chance of meeting, there's just going to be a great big bear hug. Um, like
Exactly.
because you're just naturally a warm person who people want to be around. So kind of my last question for you is can you sense people's energy or aura or something like that? Is there something if someone walks into a room, can you get a sense that A, someone walked into the room and B, maybe their state of being or mind? Is that
Yeah.
something?
Oh, yeah, I mean, whether or not, like, knowing if they walk in the room or not, I'm not gonna give myself, like, that kinda skill, like, without me, like, hearing them, I just pick up on their being or something, I'm pretty in tune, it'd be kinda hard for somebody to slip by me without me hearing them, their footsteps or something,
It'd be
but
hard for
no,
someone to break into your house.
exactly, yes, and so, but no, I'm super in tune to people's just energy. That is something that I'm very, very in tune with. Something that somebody who I can pick up on it, whether even it's very easy most time for me to realize right off the bat, is this person nervous about meeting me, saying the wrong thing. I can pick up on that. Or just like you said, you I don't think it's something that I ever really paid as much attention to as when I can see, as now when I can't, of just the energy that each of us put off, and there's certain people who you meet and you talk to and like you feel good, like you walk away and you just feel happy and uplifted. And then there's other people who you just feel like icky, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I'm
Man.
very in tune to that.
And that's so fascinating because it's I think it's a part that some people would rather pretend didn't exist or feel weirded out by it or are afraid to acknowledge it. But I'm like, yeah, there is something there. You can feel it when a positive person walks into a room or a negative person walks in a room. You can feel it when you've spent time in someone's presence. Do you feel recharged or do you feel de-energized? And even
Exactly.
having this conversation, like I feel recharged having this conversation. And I can't tell you how excited I am about this whole echolocation thing. I'm like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, it never occurred to me that would be a thing, and yet here it is. So I'm like,
Yeah.
now I want to learn echolocation.
Exactly. Yeah. It's super cool. So yeah, it could definitely be something to impress some friends with,
So
So
do you have any other tricks up your sleeve that I didn't learn about today?
ooh, well, I don't think so. But
I mean, already you have some pretty awesome. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. There's got to be more here.
I don't know. I mean, I make a pretty mean cup of coffee in the morning. I don't know.
Like, that is impressive, though.
Yeah.
It'd be
Well,
cool if you did like latte art.
yeah. Well, that's one of the things I started to say. Talking about the dining in the dark event. Is I always tell the people who I'm with. I'm like, you guys are so impressed. I'm like, you should have been at my house for breakfast and lunch. I was dining in the dark and I had to cook the food.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Well, Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love that you are so open with your story. Clearly, this is not going to be the last time we talk together, because I think we've formed a friendship, and I've loved it. If people want to connect with you because they're like, man, I love this guy's story, I just want to know more. Where do they connect with you?
yeah, so you can find me. So the name of my podcast and brand is called The Lowe Down with Kevin Lowe. And so that is literally the name of my website, is just literally the lowdown with kevinlowe.com. And then that's the same handle for I'm on Instagram and Facebook. Is just both of those are at the lowdown with Kevin Lowe also. So please be sure, you're more than welcome to go on my website, send me an email from there, or go on, Instagram or Facebook, send me a message. Always glad to help, always glad to, help people out. I'm part of on Facebook is got some different groups, support groups for people who are blind or visually impaired. And that's been like a really big like joy for me is being able to kind of give back to people who are going through stuff, you know who are maybe at the start of the road that I've been traveling down for now 18 years, and that I can help them. And always there, like you said, always there just to help somebody out, make them laugh, or just give them somebody to listen to. So
That's amazing. Well, thank you again so much, Kevin. Thank you for sharing your story. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we're going to wrap up the live broadcast here. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm doing this multiple times a week. And in fact, I do have a live broadcast later today with another very, very interesting gentleman. So stay tuned for that one coming soon. Thanks again.